This is Defacto Review, where we discuss the top news events from the previous week and then debate what happens next. Hi, I'm Terrence Edwards, and with us tonight is our host, Jargle Defacto. How are you?
Good evening. Nice to start again another week review. It's rather analysis than the review, we would say. So let's go ahead one by one. Our topics we have chosen.
Sure, let's look at what we have to discuss tonight.
A leaked voice recording gives insight into the Democrats' strategy for the new election rules. Democrats postpone meeting for reforms. Inflation on the decline, price index shows. Lingering questions still surround mysterious Erdenet copper mine deal.
We begin our program with some revelations from within the Democratic Party. A voice recording has surfaced that seems to show that the former mayor of Ulaanbaatar, Erdenet, was the chief force behind the controversial changes to the rules of Mongolia's elections. I am the one responsible for whether the party wins this election or not, said the former mayor, who is also a possible presidential candidate. In the recording, he seemingly took charge of the meeting, where also was other party leaders, including former Speaker Zandahu Enkbolt. The recording of this closed-door meeting, reportedly from last May, was posted on the Facebook page of the Mongolian Democratic Association, which is a group of some members of the Democratic Party. So I want to go back and look what the conversation was just before the election when we were first hearing about these election rule changes. So what were some of the biggest criticisms of it, and now looking back, what do you think of the consequences of those rules?
They have changed the rule of election. Majoritarian, it was a combination of majoritarian and proportional system of election.
That was the previous rules.
And then they have changed it into a new one. And that new one brought grand loss to Democratic Party and grand victory to People's Party. So out of the 76 seats, 65 is taken by People's Party, which gives the party a great majoritarian votes and full power to create on cabinet. That's what had happened. So now the big critics going on. Was it right? Was it not? But however, now more this records come also because there are big fight among Democrats to vote for the new leader. And they expect to have their Congress on December 5. But before that, they are supposed to have national national committee, management committee of the party, which did not happen. They postponed it several times, including 3 days ago. So now they say that we will wait until the local election will finish, which is on October 5. Then after that, they will have that national committee, and then which will prepare for that Congress. And Mongolians are expecting a lot from that Congress. Why? Because first, probably it is last expectation. We do expect Democrats change their principles of their leadership, which was almost the same as like People's Party, based on whoever is donating higher and bigger money to your political party. And they were depending on this size of the money. And they have several fractions. And each fractions now are suggesting own candidate for new head of Democratic Party. So depending on the result, who is coming, I'm personally afraid of nobody is coming because they will have a big fight. But the fight will not discuss, how you say in English, the big elephant in the room, which is where the money comes from. and they cannot discuss, because then it's a matter who had donated more and who had taken which pie, etc., etc. The same old story is going to happen.
So we're going to get to those reforms in our next topic.
Okay.
But just right now, concentrating on the changes to the election rules and the former mayor battle taking center stage on that. What do you think were some of the criticisms of the changes to the election rules? And again, after the election, looking back now, what do you think were the consequences
Of that rule changes?
To the changes to the election law?
Very straight. These two systems of election had more chance to also smaller, different opinions, more pluralistic government. We were formed last time. And this time, because it changed it, they had a smaller voting group, circle, in which they can impact a lot on the voters' choice. And now one former MP was accusing the two political parties for buying votes through different meanings. So that is some kind of old system we had before since 1990.
Yeah.
And we are back to that. A very bad situation here is our constitutional court, who made decisions on that issue, that it is possible, that majoritarian proportional better, and it is the way we go. At the same time, they, on the same issue, made another decisions, just the opposite decisions, just following what the politicians were asking them. So the judicial system, not only the judicial system, but the constitutional court, which is supposed to be the highest commanding kind of making final decisions, institutions are doing or making two different decisions on the same issue.
Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate part of it. And now, probably we cannot change it back.
Yeah. Yeah. As we were leading up to the elections, the most common phrase I heard in the media, and I reported myself, was this is becoming a two-horse race. All the minor parties were being shoved to the side, because now when you have direct voting, where you're voting for specific candidates, fame, campaign finance become more of an important part of the political process. So a lot of people were criticizing that these were actually shoving to the side some of the smaller parties, the Civil Will Green Party, etc., Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party. Looking at the election and how it resulted, we did see the MPP really take a strong win with 85% of the legislature. And we also saw, to some effect, the Democrats slide. Well, obviously they have a much smaller percentage of the legislators than they used to have. But then when you go to minor parties, you have one MPRP, Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party, and one independent. So I think you're right. This has definitely had a tremendous impact on the political landscape of the country.
And now society discuss about the result of that new voting or older voting system that we have now.
Yeah.
Came back.
Yeah.
And very interestingly, former MP, Mr. Oyun Batar from Mongolian People's Party, who was a head of Mongolian General Taxation Office,
yes,
said in a recent interview that Mongolia is not run by a political party. It is run by a few oligarchs. And
who are providing campaign finance, I imagine.
Yeah, and he said, brought very interesting statistics. He said that some 200 families in Mongolia having a possession of 99% of Mongolian rich or Mongolian sources, rich sources, he said. Yeah. So it's it is not the statement from the street, and it is a statement by a man who was the head of tax office.
Yeah.
So that's very serious allegation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the society will follow that or not, but it's de facto that this statement was
Yeah.
made.
I'm curious if you disagree or agree with this. The Mongolian People's Party were in large part lobbying for the current rules that we have, so it's very unlikely we'll see this change, not anytime soon.
Yeah, because plus it gives them full power, and they will try to continue as it is now, which is kind of certain challenges it gives to Mongolians. Now it's a matter of fighting corruption. If we don't win the case, ordinary people, if we still have corrupt officials running the country, expressed in this way, as Mr. Oyunbata said.
Yeah.
So the situation is not going to be completely better for businesses, better for competition, and better for investment. Yeah. So hopefully the rational part of the society and the rational part of the members of that ruling political party and democratic party, previous ruling party, will be prevailing down the road. That's the hope and that's the need of the society.
Okay, moving forward, we're sticking with the Democrats though. The Democratic Party's National Consultative Board has postponed a meeting for members to discuss reforms for a second time as it focuses on the upcoming provincial elections. The Democrats on Friday were set to discuss the formation of a new task force that would lead the reforms as well as confirm a new chairman for the party. The party is attempting to recover from a devastating loss last June when the Mongolian People's Party took 85% of the legislature. These reforms are expected to be presented on December 6th. So, Jargal, we can only imagine what these members of the Democrats are speaking of, but in your mind, what should be the top priorities for the Democrats when it comes to how do they reform themselves, show a new image?
Well, we have partially touched the issue when we have discussed the first issue about the electorate, the new rule, etc. And now the principal issue and the principal result we are expecting from the Democratic Party, Congress, which is going to be, as you said, on December 5. But before that, they need to have that National Committee meeting, which is not taking place, postponed several times. This time was, 2 days ago, they said that, because the local election, we will postpone it. It's okay, good reason. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that even after that, they will come to the very clear agenda of the meeting. Why? Because Democratic Party has several fractions. Those fractions are not principally differences in between them. Maybe only differences is different kind of businesses influences, how big their presence in the political financing in the country. Mm-hmm. So until it is open, they cannot come to the principal questions that will lead to further development or new level of development of internal democracy inside of this party. But I'm not sure that they will be able to open that doors of political financing of each other and the party together. Yeah. Because then it will reveal a lot of transactions of money, how there is completely closure. So ordinary Democratic Party members expecting their leaders to report how much money from whom they have received and how much they have been using it. And because there is not inside internal democracy there, I don't think they have a proper report that will bring to intellectual dialogue among them. That's the first barrier they have, I'm afraid. Second is, unfortunately, the political culture in Mongolia of money dominance. Straight, I know in each country, you cannot do election without money. But however, when the financing is closed, and because the financing is closed, they are selecting public officers based on not merit, on their loyalty to their political party or political leader.
Or how much money they confront.
And then they are distributing political powers, positions to these people, which in turn don't think about the public interest. They mostly think about the money they have invested or given and about the return of their money. So within these conditions, what kind of normal public governance you do expect. So that's why, in first time in the society, people now demand more transparency.
Yeah.
So that's the major issue we are expecting from this party. And by the way, from the ruling party, which has also the same secrecy around their financing.
In my mind, it's strange that we still don't have a party chair and they're moving with reforms. You would think they would need that leader first to really direct things. With that in mind, can you tell us some of the names of who might be the next leader of the Democratic Party?
Well, they have put several candidates for that. They are representative of each own fraction. Well, there are so many of them, so different, 7 of them. Mr. Erdenet, Mr. Tsagang, Mr. Bathu, Mr. Bold, Mr. Batzandang, Mr. Erden, Mr. Gantumur. Many of them were, almost all of them were high-ranking political party officials, ministers, parliamentarians, etc., etc. But the issue is again, which of them will be able to disclose political party financing, the impact of their oligarch on decision-making, government positioning, government composition and structure. Unfortunately, that was the case every time. Even the Democrats, when they changed the prime minister and cabinet, they were always restructuring ministries, which make a confusion, which makes the power of public governance lower, slower. So I don't think these people will be, one of them will be having a complete consensus. So because that issue. So when the political party leader has not leadership, which means they need to be completely transparent, which is not the case. So what do you expect from them?
We're going to move on, but going towards the economy. Prices have fallen for the first time this year since 2009, according to data from the Bank of Mongolia. Inflation has fallen by 0.2 to 0.6% each month this year, according to the Consumer Price Index, which is used to measure inflation in the country. Battling inflation has been a chief struggle for the central bank since the 2010 to 2012 boom years, as the surge in the economy led to enormous price growth. Today's deflation, compared with a total of 1.9% decline in 2009, when the country was similarly facing economic troubles. So I'm just hoping you can give us an idea, what are the chief factors behind the manipulation of inflation or deflation in the country?
As you said, there was a deflation in the third and fourth quarter of 2009.
Yes.
It was the end of the previous crisis, which ended with growing prices on commodities in the mid of 2010. And 2011 was the highest growth rate in Mongolia, from almost 0 than 17%. It was not because the government made proper economic decisions, it's just because the prices came up. But this time we have also observing the same deflation now in the third and fourth quarter of 2016. But this time the deflation is a little bit different, I'm afraid of. You may call it also kind of it's a debt deflation. There was a similar formula 1933 in your country, in the US, by Dr. Fisher from Yale University, who made this formula, which says debt deflation. And what is this? How does it happen? It means that bond distressed sales, debt distressed sales is happening in some part of the economy, some businesses. Why? We have borrowed a lot of money, and it was the money, government money through development bank, through Chinggis bond, all this money went to the economy somehow. Of course, they were partially bad management, probably corruption. We should find out that. But overall, the money went to the economy. Now it's a time to pay back. And many of companies cannot pay. Two reasons. One, many this bond project, right, paid not fully. They probably paid some 60 to 80%. That they didn't have this current capital. So they are staying with the money on which they bought capital. They don't have operation, yet they have to pay back now interest rate for the first year or second year. So distressed, they sell their assets. Or distressed, they withdraw their savings and pay back the debt. Otherwise, it will be more and more political reputation, whatever scandals. So those who respect these values, they start to pay. That means from circulation, they are taking away from saving money and pay the debt. And some are taking Mongolian saving in Tugriks money and they buy hard currency.
Yeah.
That's why recent Mongolian statistics show that year-on-year base, Mongolian savings in Tugriks went down. And dollar savings increased a bit, but it doesn't mean that all money went buying dollars. The remaining went to distressed selling. What does it mean? First, it decreases the velocity of circulation of money. Okay? Now money is slowly circulating, first. Second, once you are decreasing your output, that means you are decreasing your purchase, you are decreasing your labor, right? It gives a bit shrinking of the economy, what's happening now. And the third, in general, people now a bit pessimistic, more pessimistic than before. So they are facing uncertainty with that. So either that's why some not are willing to buy things. So this is the general that caused deflation, I would say. But that deflation cannot go long because there is a certain limit they can sell it, whatever they can sell it. Mm-hmm. But still there are increase of bad debt. Again, what happened was year-on-year basis, loan to companies and individuals have increased 10% by the end of August, okay? But bad loan increased 20%. So that means that they are borrowing not that rapidly as before, and plus there are still loan that is 20% have increased, bad loan that 20% increased. That's why now the central bank having different money policy first. Secondly, now they will increase the required equity of the banks, and they should do proper and serious job to restructuring the bad loans to make sure or they pay out the bad loans. In order to have a quality of the bank, they need to sell or to bring to different sector the different qualification of bad loans.
Yeah.
So that's what we are facing today.
So as while some may be happy to see prices sliding, it's not exactly a sign of a healthy economy with bad debt and what it means for growth of the economy.
Yeah, it is reflected on living of people who are living, lower middle class or poor class. Yeah. They cannot save, and they are very much fragile to these changes in society.
Okay, we're going to move on to our final story. New questions have arose regarding the mysterious purchase by a Mongolian company for Russia's 49% stakeholding in the joint venture mining unit for the Erdenet copper mine. That has been followed by a London court freezing nearly $8 million in assets for the company. The court ruled in favor of the Swiss firm MIR Trading international newswire Thomson Reuters has reported, which claimed that it was owed copper deliveries. The ruling froze $7.115 million plus 37,818 pounds in accounts payable and comes about 2 months since the purchase by a company known as Mongolian Copper. It was also announced just a day before the election, and some say the announcement contributed to the Mongolian People's Party's landslide win with taking 85% of the legislature. So Jargal, can you provide us some context to the importance of Erdenet mine to the Mongolian economy?
Yeah, as you said, there is one good news, the other is bad news. Good news is, no news is good news also. That's what you say, right?
Yes.
In English. So, relative good news is since the purchase of 49% of Erdenet copper mine from Russian government by a Mongolian unknown company with CEO of 28 years old, nobody heard about that person.
Ties to Trade and Development Bank, who fronted some of the money.
Yes,
for the
and
purchase.
with not clear address.
Yeah.
So that transaction had happened, and as you said, it played a substantial role on the result of the election for the Democrats. So it happened a day before election, announced it, right?
It was $400 million. That was the price tag, yes?
Well, the Russians announced $500 million. Then the head of TDB on another program announced $400 million. And the also rumor about all $1 million, right? We talk about big money, $1 million. So, and I remember the first sessions of the parliament, current MP, parliamentarians were raising very big voices, demanding what happened, make clear. Since that, nothing had happened. And it is not surprising, because in Mongolia, this sort of silence on bigger scandals, events like this, the politicians have a silence. Why? I mean, its opposition party has a silence, and that it is done by the previous party, Democratic Party.
Yeah.
It means they are so much interconnected, defending each other's interests. That's bad news. The news. Another news, which you qualify bad news for them, is, as you said, $8 million money in account frozen.
Yeah.
Because they have not been delivering.
This was accounts that was supposed to be paying into Erdenet.
A few years ago it had happened. This Swiss company had sued them. Now the decision is to get frozen the money. What does it mean? Terence, you should understand one thing, is Mongolian state-owned companies mostly means party-owned companies. Whenever the power is changed, they put on people. This new political party puts new leadership in these state-owned companies. What they do, the new leaders, they come and they ignore, don't respect, don't give honor to the contracts which is made before him. It was the clear case.
Yeah. And we're already seeing that with Erdenet Mongol, which has changed its board, and Erdenet Talfin Tolga with a new CEO, and I understand completely new management team.
That's this discontinuity of the power, governance, is a big problem in the country. And second thing is about this 49% of the Russian shares. Okay, it's good news is 49% from one big foreign government comes to the private company, which is good news. I prefer all these shares to be in the hand of private hand, because then we will not have any stealing, because you cannot steal from yourself. So let it be, but the only issue is who had, from our that time current leadership, people have said, okay, get visa. Now the issue is, have they gotten any premium for that, price for that, bribe for that? That's what the Mongolian society wants to know. And I think they will know. Because without this sort of knowledge, awareness, participation in democracy, Mongolia cannot be a normal democratic country. That's why they still demand in anger of ordinary people are there. But make sure that it is not the coming to the private sector, but it is the procedure that has done in such a way.
I'm going to let you have the final word there because we're all out of time.
Okay.
We hope our briefings this evening will give you a head start as you enter the work week on Monday. Any final thoughts?
And we will try to bring new format next time, and really we try to non-Mongolian speaking Mongolia-related individuals, independent information on 5 or 6 most important, to our view, issues raised for last week.
Yeah.
So hopefully you enjoy, and please look at also on our Facebook, on the VTV, on jargaldefacto.com, and then you can see also the recording from tomorrow. Thank you very much for spending a time with us tonight, and see you next week.
Good night, Ulan Bator.
Thank you.